Wow, that car's really loud. I'm gonna go shut that door. Parkour. Okay. Anyway. Hi. Welcome to a new vlog. I'm sweating, so nothing has changed. The weather in Auckland is still incredibly humid. I'm sorry if you are suffering from the cold in other parts of New Zealand, but I'm kind of looking at people that I follow on Instagram in Wellington and other parts of the country who are like, oh, it's definitely autumn, I'm wearing my scarf, and I'm like, I remember wearing scarves. I remember wearing more than one layer. Anyway, I don't know what that's like. So I'm very shiny and very sweaty. I would apologize for it, but you know what, I feel like that's just gonna be a theme if I continue making these vlogs. So yeah, new week. I think this will be like, I'm kind of hoping to make vlogs every month as a sort of summary and documentation of me trying to start my own small business and become a freelance illustrator, and also to be like, what is my life at 32? I will be turning 33 at the end of this year, and I think especially for the last few years since I turned 30 with the pandemic and everything, life has been very unusual. I was talking to my friend last night about how time just doesn't seem to be moving in the same way or being experienced by us in the same way that it used to. Weeks, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of you, weeks and months seem to be passing by really, really quickly. So some of the things I'm hoping to film today is showing you a little look at the schedule or routine that I try to set up for myself on Google Calendar to try and make sure that I do the things that are important to me. Disclaimer, being very honest, I have not been so good at keeping at it this week, but I still think it was a really worthwhile activity, and I think I will still leave it in place after this 2-week trial period, which is what I gave myself. You know, small goals, just try and keep at it for 2 weeks, and I didn't quite manage that. But I think one of the big things that I'm learning this year is how not to be mean to myself. I'm my worst bully. I'm so mean to myself. I laugh about it because you have to, because otherwise it would just be super discouraging and sad. But one of the things I'm trying to do this year at 32 is basically not try and be my biggest bully, but try and be my biggest supporter and be the friend that I hope I am to my, to my actual external third-party friends, but just someone who's just really compassionate and caring and tries to be of practical help. So what does that look like for me? It means trying to create a schedule and a structure for my day when I don't, if I don't put in a structure for my day, then I have none. So it means putting in a schedule for myself, putting in sort of sustainable goals around exercise, buying clothes that fit my body, basically just like ways to make my life easier and to avoid punishing myself for things that I believe are like kind of intrinsically my fault. I have no idea if you relate to this, but I feel like you might. But yeah, believing that things are intrinsically my fault and that I am by default a terrible person because I can't work productively, or I don't exercise, or I'm not eating the right food, or I'm not acting on every single crisis that exists in the world. Basically trying to be kind to myself, be compassionate, figure out what I respond to, what I use my energy for, and whether that use of energy is actually going to be effective and worthwhile. Yeah, I'm hoping to just practice just different kinds of illustration a lot more. I've signed back up to Skillshare to do classes. One of the things that I really want to invest in myself this year is actual like learning and practice and studying how to improve in different areas of my work, whether that's being a freelance illustrator or whether that's the actual illustration work. I'm just very keen to develop my skills more.
Ooh, I saw her in every song, in every wrong. Beautiful to see the world that way. You'll say yes to anything, believe in what they say. Take a walk with your ultraviolets that fill my soul. Your ultraviolet. And every time I know the truth, speaking one way between me and you, and I'm fine on my course she does. Just smile and hush. And in my
My friends on the internet talk to me more than my real ones do. I never seem to be good enough for him or her or even you. They say it'll always get better, but I had no one to help me through. At the end, always a congratulations, but no word when I needed you. Call you a penny in the freezer, 'cause you're two-faced and stone cold. I'm sick of wasting all my time worried about you. It's getting old. I'm done with all these fake friends. I don't have time to pretend that you care about me when you don't. You treat me like I'm less than, so tell all of your new friends how I am the worst. Put on a show. I can't believe I got to write 20 songs about you.
How the trick is just like lining it back up.
Yeah.
Actually, like,
You got a bit of a margin of error.
well, like, you would think this would be easy. It's not.
Yeah.
So what? Probably about there.
Yeah. Do you want me to like?
We really reached it in there, honey.
Yeah. Is that straight?
It doesn't look it, no.
Just have a clue. All the shit you put me through. I can't believe I got to write 20 songs about you. To make you just have a clue. All the shit you put me through. Tell me what you want, tell me what you need. Tired of trying just for you to leave. I was so sad just staring at my phone. Now I'm glad you're gone, I'd rather be alone. So tell me what you want, tell me what you need. Tired of trying just for you to leave. I was so sad just staring at my phone. Now I'm glad you're gone, I'd rather be alone. I can't believe I got to.
I thought I would share with you what I'm up to this week. So at the moment I have a blog called It's Cereal Bowl, and I have a podcast and a portfolio website for my illustration and design work. That's all well and good. However, the portfolio website is on the Wix platform, if you've heard of that, and then my blog is currently on WordPress. Wix is fine, like it's great. It helped me build this portfolio that I'm actually pretty happy with and looks like a real portfolio. But WordPress I'm finding really, really difficult as time goes on, especially since I want to try and add an online shop to it eventually. And I've just been finding it tricky, and I'm also paying for like multiple subscriptions, and I just want to cut down on my expenses and also just simplify things. Now, however, I really just want to focus on my illustration work, get more work in that area, and just make it easier for me to manage these different things. I'm not getting rid of the blog, and I'm not getting rid of the podcast at the moment. However, I just want to bring it all under the umbrella of Kim Can Draw, which is my handle on Instagram. So alongside the new website that I'm launching that's going to combine these different things, I'm also relaunching my Patreon. So I launched my Patreon, I think at the end of last year, and I kind of just did it on impulse. I was like, quickly drew up some tier illustrations to accompany them, came up with some benefits that I thought were sustainable and that I could do, and then just kind of put it out there. But I put it out under the umbrella of It's Cereal Bowl, trying to again create this kind of like one brand title thing that I could put everything under. But as I started to move away from this idea of being a content creator, I decided that I would take that down and I would relaunch it as just a pure illustration creative journey sort of Patreon. So that's what I'm doing this Thursday. So probably by the time this comes out, this will have passed. And if you're at all interested, I've left my link to my new website and my Patreon in the box below. So real talk. One of the things I'm nervous about is that, like, at the moment, no one will care. No one will sign up as a patron. You know, most of the people that follow me are people I know in real life, so they're my friends, which is like lovely. They're going to support me, but they're not going to be necessarily the target audience for my work. They're not going to be the people that hire me necessarily. So I know that when I launch this stuff, as much as I'm trying to like basically get eyes on it, I know that, and I do worry about a little bit, that nothing will eventuate out of it. But I'm also okay with that because of the reasons why I just said. In terms of them not necessarily being the people who will be my target audience, who will be fans of my work, who will, you know, put money towards my mahi or my work. Mahi means work in Te Reo Māori. But what I'm really doing with this thing is I'm really trying to lay down the groundwork of what might come afterwards. I'm really trying to establish a strong website for my illustration work that I can feel confident updating, that people can see the other stuff that I do all in one place, that I don't need to feel the pressure of curating content for the blog. It can just be something where I update it occasionally about the work that I'm doing. And the same with the Patreon. I am creating the space that hopefully in the future will be filled with like-minded individuals and maybe friends. That's the first big thing that's happening this week. The other big thing that I'm working on is a commission for an animated illustration intro to a video podcast. I won't say too much about what it is, but basically this is the first time I've ever had to animate something. It's been really lovely that they've given me this chance to experiment and actually try this for the first time. If you're interested, I'm using Procreate and the Animation Assist tool. Again, never done this. I've watched some videos and I feel like I know what I'm doing, understand the basic concepts of animation. We'll see how it goes. That's interesting but scary, and we're just trying to do the scary things and just focus on the work. And yeah, anyway, I hope you're doing well. I might check in a little bit later, might film some stuff a little bit later, but yeah, I hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you soon. So I'm feeling quite nervous. I'm just about to, I'm going to try to record my podcast newsletter for the first time for my Patreon. So it's one of the benefits for my second tier, I think, where every couple of weeks I'll be putting out a podcast newsletter. I was inspired by Fran, I want to say her last name Menzies, but I actually can't quite remember. But if you know, you know, Fran. She has a great YouTube channel, which I'll put in the link below because I think she's great and you should follow her. But on her Patreon, she does podcast newsletters as well. And I've listened to them and they're just so nice. And a part of me feels a bit foolish that I think I could do the same thing and that it'd be just as good. Well, not just as good, but you know, like as engaging, whatever, because I personally really enjoy the way that Fran talks about stuff and the things that she's thinking. So this is all a big experiment. Anyway, for my podcast, I did actually buy a mic, which weirdly I kind of stopped using because I found that my phone was just easier. The thing, I did do quite a bit of research about what mic to buy. I ended up buying the Samson Q2U, which is like recommended for beginner podcasters and people like that. Sorry if my chair creaks, it does creak a lot. But yeah, I ended up going back to my phone because I just found that with this, I just wasn't confident I'd be picking up all the sound of everyone talking, whereas the phone like picks up everything, which is both good and bad. Anyway, but I thought that today, for recording my podcast newsletter, since it's just me talking, I might set it up and give it a try again. So I'm just gonna do that and try and record my podcast for the first time. Well, not my podcast, I have a podcast. My podcast newsletter for Patreon for the first time. So I've set up my mic. I think it's kind of funny that I'm literally sitting down right now to record this podcast and newsletter, and I kind of low-key have no idea what I'm doing. But this is my encouragement to you, that if there's something that you want to do, in the same way that I also started my podcast breakfast chats, just give it a go and like Google it, look it up, see what you can afford, what your constraints are, and just be creative with it. I also just want to point out that, yeah, there's a bunch of junk behind me. I do not live in a junk-free space. This is our spare room that I work out of, and it is currently filled with all of the clothes that I culled from my wardrobe over 3 wardrobe culls over a period of months. And I have every intention of taking photographs of all of these clothes and selling them online. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But you know what? After reading a book called Getting It Done by David Allen, I think his name is. Some of you might have heard of this book. It's pretty much like an OG productivity book. One of the things that he talks about is how you should only have 3 projects going on at one time. Now, I don't have 3, I have like 9. But the idea is that you restrict yourself to a certain amount of projects, because that's realistically all you can focus on. And then once you're finished with something, then you replace it with a different project. Sorting out these clothes is a project on my to-do list. So it's kind of the imminent, this is what's next once something is accomplished. That'll probably come up next, maybe after I launch this website and Patreon. So it's on the list, but anyway, I just want to explain like why there's just this corner of junk. I could film in a different direction. Oh, you can also see like my saxophone, my fencing foils. From when I was 17, by the way. I'm now 32. For some reason, I've dragged these everywhere with me. And our makeshift Christmas tree made out of salvaged or found sticks on the hill behind our old house. So I have a lot of hobbies. Anyway, we're set up. I'm just setting up Premiere Pro and I'm creaky chair. And I'm just gonna start recording. Okay, bye. Howdy noodle. It's 5 o'clock, so you know what that means. I feel like I'm really giving energy that I'm not feeling right now. But it's time to launch the website and my Patreon. I'm just on my computer here. So I'm gonna go do that. But one other thing that I have been doing today is looking up ergonomic iPad stands for drawing. My wrist is starting to get really painful. Not super painful, but it's just like when you're hyper aware of your wrist and what it's doing, that's not a good sign. I'm really wary of RSI and things like that, so I have been looking up an ergonomic iPad stand specifically for drawing. I've been looking at that. Hopefully I find one that's good. If you have any suggestions of what's been good for you, I'd really like to know. Yeah, this is kind of like one of those things where I'm like, I know that I'm going to be drawing a lot more, so I really want to invest in the tools that I use. So yeah. Now let's launch this stuff.